It started with a bright orange paper taped crookedly to my front door. The kind of color you'd use to warn people about chemical spills or wild animals. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. Big bold letters across the top read, "Notice of fire hazard violation. CHOA compliance required." I remember standing there in my driveway, coffee in hand, rereading the words like they'd rearranged themselves into something sane. My fence, a 6-foot cedar one I'd installed 2 years earlier, was apparently a fire hazard. According to the letter, it was constructed of untreated wood materials in violation of community fire safety codes. Now, I'm no expert in HOA nonsense, but I am a licensed contractor. That fence had passed every city inspection before the HOA even got involved. So yeah, my blood pressure spiked a little. That night, I called the number listed at the bottom of the letter, Susan Baker, HOA president. Her tone was polite, but every word dripped with condescension. "Oh, you're the one with the wooden fence," she said, like she'd been waiting for me. "Yes, ma'am, the one you're calling a fire hazard." "Well," she sighed, "the board received multiple concerns about your fence's proximity to property lines and potential ignition risk. We're required to act for community safety." Multiple concerns, huh? Funny how all those concerns sounded like they came from her. I asked for a copy of the inspection report. She said it was handled internally. That was the first red flag. HOAs don't do internal fire inspections. That's a city issue. By the next morning, my neighbors were already whispering. Someone had snapped a photo of the orange notice and posted it in the local Facebook group with the caption, "Hope our neighborhood doesn't go up in flames because of one person's fence." That's when I realized this wasn't just about my fence. Susan was trying to make an example out of me, maybe to show off her leadership before the next HOA election. I wasn't going to let that happen, so I started digging. I called the county's fire marshal office to confirm if they'd issued any inspection report. They hadn't. In fact, the man on the phone said something that made my stomach drop. "Sir, we've never inspected your address, and we don't coordinate with HOAs for fire compliance. Someone's faking reports if they're claiming otherwise." And just like that, the quiet suburban drama had officially turned criminal. By the time the HOA meeting rolled around that Thursday night, I was ready. I printed out everything: the fake notice, the HOA's so-called report, and the email from the county fire marshal confirming that no such inspection ever happened. I even brought photos of the fence from when I built it, treated cedar, pressure sealed, professionally installed. In other words, not even close to a hazard. When I walked into the community center, every chair was already taken. The fluorescent lights buzzed, the air smelled like old coffee and tension, and Susan Baker sat at the head of the table like a queen guarding her throne. Her perfect silver bob didn't move an inch when she looked up and saw me. "Mr. Harris," she said coolly, "you'll have a chance to speak during homeowner concerns. Please sign in." Yeah, sure, because this was definitely going to be polite. When it was my turn, I stood, holding the orange notice in one hand. "I'd like to discuss this fire hazard violation," I said, making sure everyone could see it. A murmur rippled across the room. A few neighbors leaned forward. Susan smiled tightly. "That issue's been handled internally," she said again. "You were sent proper notice." I took a slow breath, keeping my voice calm. "That's the thing, Susan. I contacted the fire marshal's office. They've never inspected my property. So unless one of you is certified to conduct official fire assessments, this notice is, what's the word, fraudulent." That word hit the room like a dropped match. The HOA treasurer shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. And for the first time, I saw something flicker behind Susan's confident expression. A crack. She tried to recover. "We act based on resident complaints. I'm sure there's just a misunderstanding." But I didn't let it go. A misunderstanding doesn't come with fake government warnings and forged signatures. That got the neighbors whispering again. One older man in the back stood up. "Wait, you're saying this wasn't a real inspection?" "No," I said, "and I can prove it." That's when Susan snapped. "You're out of line. We followed all proper procedures." But before she could finish, a knock echoed from the back door of the community room. The door opened, and in walked a man in uniform, the real fire marshal. He held a clipboard, scanning the room like he'd just stepped into a movie scene. "Evening. I got a call about a supposed fire inspection report connected to this HOA. The silence was so sharp you could hear a pin drop." Susan's face went pale, and I couldn't help it. I smiled, because now the real inspection was about to begin. The fire marshal introduced himself as Marshal Lewis, a broad-shouldered man with the kind of calm authority that made everyone sit up a little straighter. He wasn't smiling, not even pretending to. He walked to the front of the room, set his clipboard on the table and said, "We received a call from a homeowner regarding a fire safety report allegedly issued by our department. After reviewing our records, I found no such report exists, so I decided to stop by this meeting myself." Every eye in the room flicked towards Susan. She tried to act composed, fingers tightening around her pen, but the color was draining from her face like water down a drain. "Marshall," she began, "this must be a miscommunication. Our HOA only referenced general fire safety guidelines. No one said it was official." Marshall Lewis raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, the document I was shown used our letterhead and my office's signature block. That's when you could practically feel the oxygen leave the room." I unfolded the orange notice from my folder and slid it across the table toward him. "That's the one," I said. "It was taped to my door." He picked it up, studying the fake seal. Then he looked directly at Susan. "Who prepared this?" She hesitated. It must have been an administrative error. Maybe one of the committee volunteers." "Name," he interrupted, voice flat. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The silence stretched until the HOA treasurer shifted uncomfortably. "Susan, maybe we should just be honest," he muttered. And that was it. The thread started unraveling. Turns out Susan had borrowed an old PDF template she found online and filled in fake inspection details to make her complaints look official. She hadn't counted on me checking. "I was only trying to enforce safety," she stammered. "Some of our members felt the wood fence posed a danger." Marshall Lewis cut her off again. "You impersonated a government office. That's a criminal offense." The entire room went dead quiet. Even the hum of the lights seemed to fade. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, and part of me did. But mostly, I was just stunned. This was beyond HOA drama. It was fraud. Susan finally turned to me, eyes wide, voice trembling between anger and panic. "You didn't have to escalate this. We could have handled it privately." I met her gaze, steady and calm. "You taped a fake fire violation to my door, Susan. You made it public the moment you did that." Marshall Lewis gathered his paperwork. "We'll be forwarding this to the county attorney's office. I'll need statements from both of you." He turned toward me. "And, Mr. Harris, thank you for calling it in." As he left, the rest of the board sat frozen, whispering nervously. Susan just stared down at her hands. I walked out into the night, the cool air hitting my face like relief. But something told me this wasn't over yet. The next morning, my phone started buzzing before sunrise. Apparently, word had spread overnight. Faster than wildfire, ironically. Someone from the HOA meeting had recorded the whole confrontation and uploaded it to the neighborhood Facebook group. By 8 a.m., half the community had seen Susan's pale face when the fire marshal walked in. The video's title? "HOA President Fakes Fire Report, Gets Busted Live." I couldn't have written it better myself. Within hours, comments poured in. Neighbors who used to ignore me were suddenly apologizing, some even angry on my behalf. "I can't believe she went that far. This HOA is out of control. That guy handled it like a pro." For the first time in years, people weren't afraid to question the board. Later that afternoon, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. The HOA's vice president. Effective immediately, Susan Baker has stepped down as HOA president pending an investigation. No apology, no explanation, just gone. A few hours later, I stepped outside to grab the mail and saw something strange. The orange notice was gone from my fence. Someone had quietly taken it down, as if trying to erase the whole thing from history. But the truth was already out there. A week later, I got a call from Marshall Lewis again. "Just wanted you to know," he said. "The county attorney's reviewing the documents. You did the right thing bringing this forward." I thanked him. Then I looked at my fence, still standing, perfectly safe, bathed in the soft glow of the afternoon sun. For all the noise and chaos, it hadn't changed a bit. A few neighbors waved from across the street. One of them, Mrs. Green, who used to glare at me for parking too close to her mailbox, even stopped by with a plate of cookies. "We're glad someone finally stood up to her," she said. "We were all too scared to." That made me realize something. It wasn't just about my fence. It was about how easy it is for people in power, even small power, to think they can twist the truth and get away with it. I smiled, taking one last look at the sturdy wood panels that started it all. "Funny," I said quietly. "The only thing that ever caught fire around here was her reputation. The sound of distant lawnmowers hummed through the neighborhood as I went back inside, closing the door on the drama. And maybe, finally, on Susan Baker's reign of HOA terror. Don't forget to subscribe to Karen Edition for more dramatic HOA and Karen stories that'll keep you hooked till the end. Like the video if you enjoyed the drama, and tell us in the comments, which moment impressed you the most? Your support helps us bring you even more unbelievable real-life HOA showdowns. Next part coming soon.